Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a story that is going to completely shatter, and I mean literally shatter, everything we've ever been taught about achievement. We're unpacking the incredibly fascinating worldview of an 82-year-old man who actively, intentionally defies society's entire definition of success. If you were to Google his name right now, you wouldn't find a single thing. He lives in a rented 1974 Airstream trailer parked out behind a diner in the middle of the New Mexico desert, and he has a message that, well, he says the people running the world are absolutely terrified of you finding out.
Okay, let's dive into this. $42. That's his entire net worth. And yeah, that explicitly includes the loose change rattling around in his truck's ashtray right now. He doesn't own property, he doesn't have a 401k, he's never been a manager, a director, or a boss of anybody. Basically, by every single traditional metric that society uses to measure a human life, his resume is completely blank. Which brings us to this wild quote. He calls himself a catastrophic, irredeemable failure. But here's the paradox that makes this explainer so essential. Despite claiming that title, he also claims, without a shadow of a doubt, to be the happiest man you will ever meet. Now you might be wondering, did he make some terrible mistakes along the way? You might even feel a twinge of pity for him. But don't, because he stepped off the treadmill entirely on purpose, and to understand why, we've got to go back in time.
Part 1. The Crossroad, 1961, Yale Law. Our speaker wasn't some uneducated guy who just couldn't cut it. Actually, he was a 22-year-old prodigy on a full-ride scholarship to Yale Law School. But as he sat there in a hard wooden chair at orientation, he looked around at the other boys in their sharp suits and noticed something horrifying in their eyes. He said they looked like cattle walking into a slaughterhouse. They were terrified. Terrified of not being number one, terrified of what their fathers would think if they didn't make partner by age 30. They were hyperventilating before the race had even started. And he realized right then and there that staying in that chair meant handing society a blank check for his entire life. So after exactly 14 minutes, he stood up, walked out the heavy wooden doors, threw his tie in a public trash can, and hitchhiked to California.
Now, what's really interesting here is part 2, the divergence, two paths.
See, on that very first day at Yale, our speaker had a roommate named Richard. While our speaker walked out, Richard stayed. And two vastly different paths diverged. On one side, we have our speaker's life. His parents didn't speak to him for 10 years, telling everyone he'd thrown his life away. But he spent the next 60 years flipping burgers, playing the banjo on street corners, and bartending in beach towns. He made exactly enough money for a cheap beer and dinner, but his time belonged entirely to him. On the other side, we have Richard. Richard played the game beautifully. He became a corporate lawyer, made millions, bought the Connecticut mansion, the Hampton summer home, flew on private jets. By all accounts, Richard was society's ultimate winner.
But Richard's path had a hidden, devastating toll. At just 52 years old, Richard died of a massive stress-induced heart attack. He literally dropped dead right on the floor of his corner office, surrounded by all that Italian leather and mahogany wood. His beautiful wife had already left him because of his 80-hour work weeks, and tragically, his children barely cried at his funeral, simply because they barely knew him.
Our speaker puts it like this, and honestly, it's absolutely chilling. Richard spent 30 years carrying a 1,000-pound boulder up a mountain just so society would clap for him, and it killed him. He won the game, for sure, but at the profound cost of his actual breathing life, all for pieces of paper and a title on a door. Meanwhile, at 82, our speaker's heart beats slow and easy as he watches the sunset every single evening.
Part 3, the trap of accumulation.
The speaker argues that society plays a massive trick on us. It convinces us that wealth is all about gathering heavy things. Take the ultimate American dream, right? The massive house. He argues that when you buy a massive house, you don't actually own it. The house owns you. You have to clean it, you have to insure it, and you're lying awake at 2 a.m. worrying about the roof leaking. And worst of all, you have to stay at a job you absolutely hate just to pay the mortgage on a house you're never actually in, because you're always at work. It's this vicious cyclical trap.
His alternative is what we can call the empty backpack theory. He lives in a tin can, and if he doesn't like the view, he just hooks it up to his truck and drives away. The theory is beautifully simple. When you have absolutely nothing, you actually have everything. Think about it like this. Imagine you're walking up a massive hill. Who is actually going to enjoy the hike more? Is it the guy carrying 100 pounds of gold on his back, sweating, groaning, staring at the dirt? Or is it the guy carrying nothing but a simple canteen of water, looking around and whistling at the birds? Our speaker dropped his gold back in 1961, and he says he's been floating ever since.
And this brilliantly illustrates Part 4, the modern hustle trap.
Because Richard's 1960s corporate climb hasn't disappeared, it's just mutated into something infinitely more complex today. We don't just have pressure from our parents or neighbors anymore. We carry a pocket machine that compares our life to 8 billion other people every single second of the day. We are so obsessed with optimizing. We're tracking our sleep with wrist computers. We're jolting awake for 4 a.m. ice baths. We're desperately trying to build personal brands online, constantly measuring our worth in likes, engagement, and relentless, endless hustle. It's exhausting.
Which brings him to this incredibly vital reminder. You are a human being, not a box of laundry detergent. The speaker views this modern obsession with optimization as a sickness. We are literally punishing ourselves, trying to take an organic, beautiful, naturally messy human life and force it into becoming a perfectly efficient machine just to hit productivity metrics.
So stop and ask yourself, why? Are you doing all of this just to get to the end of your life and say, well, I never enjoyed a single Tuesday, but boy, my productivity metrics were off the charts? Are you just exhausting yourself trying to be a better battery for the matrix?
Let's move to and see how this builds Part 5, Redefining True Wealth. If the modern hustle is a trap, how do we escape? Well, the speaker offers a radical redefinition of what true wealth actually looks like. And spoiler alert, it's something you will never, ever learn in a business school. First and foremost, wealth is not dreading Monday morning. True wealth is the complete and total absence of that tight, burning knot in the pit of your stomach when Sunday night rolls around. It's the total removal of dread.
Wealth is waking up at 8 a.m., looking up at the ceiling and realizing that nobody on this entire planet requires you to do a damn thing you don't want to do. It's unburdens time. It's spending 60 years reading books under oak trees. It's having 3-hour conversations with total strangers in diners at midnight. It's watching the rain fall without a single ounce of guilt that you aren't out there hustling.
And what about that terrifying word, failure? We are so heavily conditioned to believe that missing out on the promotion or driving a cheap car makes us worthless. But here is the crucial semantic flip. Failure is just the word society uses for people they cannot control. Think about it. When you don't care about status, your boss suddenly loses all power to threaten you. When you have absolutely nothing to protect, you become entirely bulletproof.
Sitting out there in his rusted tin can in the desert, this 82-year-old offers us a profound gift. Permission to give up. Permission to give up the chase. To stop trying to impress people who are just as miserable and terrified as you are. If you want to quit that high-paying job that makes your chest hurt, quit. If you want to move to a small town, work in a hardware store, and just paint watercolors on the weekend, do it.
So, the crucial point is making your final choice. They'll call you a loser. They will absolutely whisper about you behind your back. But let them. Let them have the corner office. Let them have the high blood pressure. Let them have the heart attacks at 52. Let them drown in their own success. You take the freedom.
I want to leave you with his closing thought today. It's a quote that challenges everything we've ever been told about where to find happiness. I'll see you at the bottom, my friends. The view down here is spectacular. So, as you go back to your day, take a good look at the boulder you're carrying up the mountain right now. Is it really worth the climb, or is it finally time to drop the gold and just enjoy the hike?